Great day, parents and scholars. We have moved into the land of rounding and place value. So we have 7,543, and I'm going to underline the 5, and the 5 is in the hundreds place because this is the ones, tens, hundred, thousands place. So in 4th grade, we show rounding by doing a vertical line. We have a baseline or a minimum. We have our mid or halfway point. This is often called our benchmark. This really determines what this number rounds to. And we have our maximum, okay? So we have 7,543 rounded to the nearest hundredth place because it's underlined. Sometimes it is stated with words what place to round to, and sometimes the digits just underlined, okay? So one of the things I've really been working on with our 4th grade investigators is, even though we're rounding to the nearest hundred, this 7,000, you still have to write it with the number. A lot of kids are saying, oh, this is between 500 and 600. That is incorrect. They must put the number that precedes it. So we have 7,000. We're going to keep the underlying digit, 7,500. Everything else goes to a 0, okay? So always, if any number comes before the underlying digit, you must put it, okay? And then the underlying digit at the bottom, it will always stay because that's our baseline, that's our minimum, okay? So we know we're rounding to the nearest hundred. So as our maximum, our underlying digit is going to go up 1. So we're going to still put our 7,000 up here. Our underlying digit is going to go up 1 to 600. So we have 7,500 is our base or our minimum, and our maximum is 7,600, okay? Next, we have to do our midpoint. What is halfway between 7,500 and 7,600? And we know that is 7,550, okay? One way I taught the students how to remember that is whatever the baseline is, you write it. You write those real numbers. 7,005. The very next 0 will go to a 5. So this right here will be a 5, and then finish it off whatever's left with the zeros. Okay? So let me state that again. For the halfway point, they're going to write the real numbers that they have. Okay? Up to the underlying digit. So I'm going to do 7,005. The very next 0 will go to a 5. And this is for your halfway or your midpoint, and the other number goes to a 0, or the other numbers will go to a 0. Okay? So 7,543, would that live under our halfway point or over our halfway point? So if it falls here, that means it rounds to 7,500. If it's larger than our midway or halfway point, it will round to the top, 7,600. So we have 7,543, 7,550. Well, I know 550 is larger than 7,543. So that means this number is going to live down here. Therefore, it's going to round to, that's our symbol for round to, 7,500. Okay? So let's do another one. Let's get the number larger. So that's thousands place. Let's try another. This time we're going to round to the nearest 10,000ths place, okay? So again, I'm going to go with my vertical line. I have my baseline number or my minimum. I have my halfway or benchmark fraction, benchmark number, and I have my maximum. Okay, now I'm getting ready to put the numbers on the line. Okay, we're rounding to the nearest 10,000ths place. How I know? Let's check and see. Ones, tens, hundred, thousands, 10,000. So we're rounding to the nearest 10,000 spot. So we know for our baseline, the underlying digit will stay. So this is 6. Everything after the underline goes to a 0. So this is 60,000. Okay? Now, we know the underlying digit goes up 1 for our maximum. So what comes after 6? 7. So we have 60,000 and we have 70,000. Okay? Now we're doing our midway or our halfway point. So remember, if we're looking at our baseline, we're going to put what real numbers do they have? They have 6, right? So we're going to put our 6. And then what happens? Exactly right. The very next 0 goes to a 5. So this is 65. Everything preceding that, everything after that goes to a 0. Okay? So we have 60,000, 65,000, and we have 70,000. Now, where would 61,487 live? It's always compared to the halfway point. It's always compared to the halfway point. To the side, is it larger or smaller than a halfway point? Well, I know 61,000 is not as large as 65,000, so it has to live down here. And therefore, it rounds to, what's the rounding to symbol? Rounded to 60,000. It rounds to the bottom. Okay, so the midway point helps our scholar determine, is it smaller or larger than the midpoint? And if it's smaller, then it will be the base. Our baseline or our minimum will be the answer. If it's larger than the midway point, then it'll be the maximum number. Okay, let's do one more. And it's the same process. Okay, let's do another. Let's get the number even larger. So let's do 387,620. Okay, and I want to, let's do to the nearest 1,000. Okay, so we must remember when we're doing our vertical line, we have our baseline, which is our minimum number. We have our midway or halfway line. This determines whether it's going to round down or up. And we have our maximum. Okay? So we're rounding to the nearest 1,000. Remember, the 38, this 3 and 8 must be written because it comes before our underlined number. In that sense, so we'll do 38. The underlined digit stays when you're doing the bottom. Everything else goes to a 0. Okay, and let me underline that 1,000 because that helps me remember when I'm getting ready to do my maximum. So when we do our maximum, the underlined digit goes up 1. So we have 38, that 7 goes up to an 8. Everything else goes to a 0. Okay, now we're ready to do our midway point. Well, our midway point, remember, we're going to put whatever they have at the baseline, whatever real numbers, up until the underlined digits. So I'm going to do my 3, 8, and 7, and then what? Exactly right. The very next 0 goes to a 5, and then everything else after that is a 0. So we have 387,000, 387,500, 388,000. So we need to see where would 387,620 live. Well, I know 620 is larger than that 500 because both of them is 387,000, right? This has 620. This has 500. So I know it will live here. Okay, I know it's larger than my halfway point. Therefore, it's going to round to, oh, I did this too close, but I'm going to write it up here, okay? Let me make this line shorter. 388,000 will be our answer. Okay? So let's see how you do on your homework. Just keep going through the process of it. Continue working hard.